The throne room of the Red Keep. Ned Stark stands before Joffrey Baratheon and issues a command that will change everything. Seize the queen and her children. In our timeline, this is where Littlefinger betrays Ned, where everything falls apart. But what if Petyr Baelish kept his word? What if chaos took a different shape? The answer isn't the War of the Five Kings being prevented. It's something far more brutal, and ultimately just as devastating. Because in Westeros, there are no clean victories. This is the story of how one man's calculated loyalty could have rewritten the fate of the Seven Kingdoms. Joffrey screams, Cersei goes pale, the Lannister guards draw their swords, but the Gold Cloaks don't hesitate. They've already been bought by Littlefinger. They rush past Ned's men and surround the Lannisters instead. The Kingsguard react like the killers they are. Ser Meryn and Ser Boros cut down Gold Cloaks with brutal efficiency. The Hound carves through them like they're training dummies. Blood floods the throne room floor. But one man hesitates, Ser Barristan Selmy. He sees what's really happening. Cersei trying to steal the throne, Joffrey preparing to execute Ned for speaking truth. When Ser Mandon Moore tries to escort Joffrey and Cersei to safety, Barristan makes his choice. The duel is brief but vicious. Barristan, despite his age, is still the greatest living knight in Westeros. When Mandon overextends, Barristan forces his sword arm up and drives his blade through the armpit. The knight falls, and Barristan seizes both Joffrey and Cersei. His voice carries across the throne room. This ends now. The fighting stops. The coup succeeds. Ned Stark has won, but Littlefinger approaches with that knowing smile. Time to discuss payment. Littlefinger's price surprises everyone. He doesn't want gold or titles. He wants influence. He convinces Ned to send Sansa to the Vale, not Winterfell. There she can still enjoy courtly life while being protected by her aunt. And conveniently, Littlefinger proposes a marriage between Sansa and young Robert Arryn, securing the Vale's loyalty for the coming war. Because war is coming, Tywin Lannister will not accept this insult. Ned sends word to Stannis Baratheon, who sails from Dragonstone with 3,000 men. When he arrives, Stannis drops a bombshell. Joffrey isn't Robert's son. None of Cersei's children are. They're bastards born of incest. The court explodes in disbelief, but Stannis comes prepared with genealogies, and Robert's bastards paraded through the city, all with black hair and blue eyes, all pure Baratheon. The contrast with the golden-haired Lannister children is undeniable. Doubt spreads. Tywin must tread carefully with his daughter and grandchildren held hostage. So the old lion does something unexpected. He agrees to negotiate. The negotiation is a masterclass in manipulation. Tywin turns every accusation back on his accusers. The Riverlands invasion, he only acted after Catelyn kidnapped Tyrion. If she can carry out vigilante justice, why can't he? Then comes the moment that silences the room. Tywin offers to have Ser Payne execute Joffrey himself, right now, to prove his loyalty. It's brilliant, calling Stannis' bluff while demonstrating his ruthlessness. But before Stannis can respond, Tywin drops another bomb. Lord Renly has proclaimed himself king. The Reach and Stormlands are assembling over 100,000 swords. Stannis does the math. He needs Tywin's army. The deal is struck. Cersei and Joffrey die. Jaime goes to the Night's Watch. Tyrion becomes Lord of Casterly Rock, and Tywin fights for Stannis but never rules again. The old lion accepts through gritted teeth. He has no choice. Tywin leads 30,000 Westermen into the Reach, while Renly's army marches north. It's divide and conquer. The Reach lords, caught off guard, scramble to respond. Sir Garland Tyrell meets them at Golden Grove in brutal combat, but when Sir Gregor Clegane hits with reserves, the Reach forces break. The region burns. Ser Gregor and his raiders spread systematic terror, forcing Renly to detach Randyll Tarly with 20,000 men to defend the Reach. Meanwhile, the North marches south. Robb Stark joins the Riverlands forces. The Vale contributes 10,000 men under Bronze Jon Royce. Stannis sails to Storm's End, while Ned leads a land force into the Stormlands. The two-pronged attack forces Renly to split his attention. The Stormlanders fight Ned's advancing army in brutal border skirmishes, while Stannis lays siege to Storm's End with Davos Seaworth's fleet. In the Reach, Randyll Tarly clashes with Tywin near the Mander River in an all-day battle. Just as Tarly's superior numbers begin to tell, Bronze Jon Royce arrives with Vale cavalry. Together, Royce and Ser Gregor cut down Randyll Tarly himself. The Reachmen break and flee. Tywin advances to Highgarden and lays siege. When the Mountain leads an assault and personally kills Garland Tyrell, the garrison collapses. Highgarden falls. Reachmen desert Renly's army by the thousands, rushing home to defend their lands. Renly's power base crumbles. He breaks off from fighting Ned and races back to Storm's End to defeat Stannis and salvage his campaign. But Stannis retreats to fortified hills when Renly approaches, negating the numerical advantage. Ships arrive with Robb Stark's reinforcements, striking Renly's flanks. The fighting becomes a grinding stalemate. Then Bronze Jon Royce arrives from the Reach with his fastest riders. Ned Stark's army follows behind. Renly finds himself surrounded by three armies. In desperation, Loras Tyrell leads a charge against the northern lines. The Knight of Flowers is magnificent in his final moments, but he falls beneath a dozen blades. Renly retreats into Storm's End, but Stannis has one final surprise. Melisandre's shadow assassin murders the gatehouse guards in the dead of night. The gates open, Ned Stark leads the assault, and Storm's End falls. Renly is captured. The Southern Coalition collapses. The Tyrells surrender. The war is over. Stannis has won. But victory comes with a terrible price. Instead of clean executions, Cersei, Joffrey, and Renly are burned alive at stakes as offerings to R'hllor, the Lord of Light. The screams echo across King's Landing. The smell of burning flesh makes people sick. It's too much like the Mad King. Construction begins on a great temple to Lord of Light. The Queen's men, Stannis' most fanatical supporters, grow in influence. They defile septs, punish those who speak against their god, and conduct more burnings of heretics. Stannis issues proclamations condemning these actions and punishes some perpetrators, but it's not enough. The temple rises, the burnings continue, and Melisandre gives her tacit approval. The goodwill Stannis earned through fair governance erodes. The small folk fear him. The lords resent his centralizing reforms. From the shadows, Littlefinger and Varys spread rumors, comparing Stannis to Aerys Targaryen. Support rots from within, and across the narrow sea, old enemies prepare to strike. Varys has been planning this for years. Aegon Targaryen, or the boy claiming to be Rhaegar's son, leads the Golden Company, but he needs powerful allies. Tywin Lannister, stripped of power and exiled, makes a deal. Help him return home, and he'll deliver the Westerlands to Aegon's cause. But they need a foothold in Westeros. That's where Littlefinger's long game pays off. Young Robert Arryn dies, tragically, but not unexpectedly. Sansa becomes Lady of the Eyrie, and Littlefinger has been working on her for months, turning her against her father and Stannis. When Varys proposes Aegon marry Sansa, Littlefinger convinces her this is her chance to marry the gallant prince she always wanted. Not Joffrey the monster, not Stannis' grim court, but Aegon Targaryen, young and handsome and kind. The Vale Lords are reluctant until Littlefinger reminds them of Stannis' burnings, the desecrated septs, the foreign god. They fought to remove one mad king who burned people. Why serve another? The Golden Company lands at Gulltown to honor guards, not resistance. Aegon and Sansa marry within a week. The Vale declares for House Targaryen. The Vale and Golden Company sweep through the Bloody Gate and descend on the Riverlands. But the Blackfish is ready. Brynden Tully implements guerrilla warfare, destroyed bridges, flooded fields, burned grain stores, constant ambushes. The invasion slows to a bloody crawl. Then, Tywin makes his move. He returns to the Westerlands, and lords who dismissed Tyrion rush to declare for the Old Lion. 25,000 Lannister soldiers march east, catching the Blackfish between two armies. In the south, the Tyrells rebel against House Florent, seeing their opportunity for revenge. Stannis is forced to march south to deal with them. The trap closes. Tywin and the Golden Company lay siege to Riverrun, with Edmure and Tyrion trapped inside. The Blackfish raids from outside, but can't break the siege. Then Tywin unleashes his terror weapon. Ser Gregor and his raiders burn the Riverlands systematically. Villages destroyed, small folk murdered, systematic terror designed to break the will to resist. The Brotherhood without banners, those outlaws loyal to Stannis, seize an opportunity. They spread tales of Lannister atrocities throughout Aegon's army, reminding the Vale Lords they came to fight a mad king who burns people, not to serve alongside Tywin Lannister. And they come up with a more direct plan: kidnap Sansa and show her the truth. The Brotherhood ambushes Sansa's caravan in the Mountains of the Moon, with help from mountain clansmen. Harwin, one of Ned's former guards, leads her through the Riverlands on a journey that shatters her illusions. She sees villages burned by the Golden Company, flying dragon banners, mass graves of small folk, killed not for rebellion, but for refusing to yield livestock, corpses left as warnings, the systematic horror of war waged by Tywin Lannister, with Aegon's approval. Harwin doesn't lecture her. He simply asks, "What would your father say? Would Ned Stark approve of this?" Sansa tries to defend Aegon. He's kind, gentle, chivalrous. But Harwin cuts through the fantasy. Princes like that exist only in songs. In real life, things are dirtier. She's serving the same house that burned her grandfather and uncle alive. Now they wear dragon wings instead of lion claws, but the fire is the same. As they reach Riverrun where the siege rages, Sansa makes her choice. Ned Stark arrives with 10,000 Northmen, crashing into the besiegers' rear. Jon Connington rallies the Golden Company with impressive discipline, using longbowmen to blunt the attack. Tywin orders Ser Gregor to hit the northern flanks. The fighting is brutal. For hours, neither side gains ground. Jon Connington calls for the Vale reserves to advance and crush Ned's army. But the orders come from Sansa, not the Vale commanders. Her letter is simple. She can no longer support Aegon, while he allows Tywin's atrocities. The Vale cavalry charges, but toward the Lannisters, not away from them. The Golden Company breaks in confusion. Tywin watches his alliance shatter. Edmure bursts from Riverrun's gates in a massive sortie. The Blackfish emerges with the Brotherhood, striking at Tywin's command position. The siege dissolves into chaos. Lannister forces begin to retreat, but there's nowhere to go. The Blackfish personally cuts down Tywin Lannister. Sir Gregor falls under a rain of arrows. Jon Connington fights to the last and dies with sword in hand. Aegon, wounded and unhorsed, is dragged before Bronzion Royce. Ned Stark arrives carrying ice and takes the young pretender's head. The dragon dies in the Riverlands, far from any throne. In the south, Stannis crushes the Tyrell rebellion with Dornish help. The Reach is pacified. The Westerlands submit under Tyrion's rule. Sansa apologizes to Stannis and her father. Ned pleads for clemency for the Vale Lords, arguing they ultimately chose correctly. Stannis agrees. Sansa marries Harry Harding and learns to rule the Vale with her father's guidance. But Littlefinger escapes to Essos, already plotting his next move. Stannis consolidates his rule, but his throne is fragile. The burnings made him deeply unpopular. The temple to Lord of Light stands as a permanent reminder. The small folk fear him, even as they respect his justice. The Riverlands are devastated after years of war. The North has paid heavily for southern politics again. The Vale is shaken, and everyone knows this isn't over. One choice, one moment where Littlefinger honored a deal instead of betraying it, and Westeros still tore itself apart. The War of the Five Kings never happened. Instead, the War of Three Kings proved just as devastating. Different people died, different houses fell, but the same problem remained. Westeros is designed to create conflict. Sansa learned that gallant princes exist mostly in songs. The Brotherhood proved outlaws can fight for justice when lords fail, and the small folk suffered regardless of which king sat the throne. Somewhere across the Narrow Sea, Littlefinger plans his next move, because chaos isn't just a ladder, it's the fundamental nature of Westeros. Stannis rules a broken kingdom with a foreign god and a reputation for burning enemies. The peace is fragile. Winter is coming. In Game of Thrones, there are no clean victories. There's just survival, hard choices, and hope that maybe the next generation learns from this one's mistakes. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this alternate history, hit that like button and subscribe. What moment would you change? Drop your thoughts below.